Hey guys, I'm here today to talk to you guys about my labor and delivery story. Finally, you guys know, I think the last time I updated you guys, it was on my 24th week. And yeah, I was tired. It was just really hard for me to record. And I did post another update, but it was on my vlog channel. And that one was my 25-week update. That is definitely the last pregnancy update that I had recorded. And yeah, it started. So about a week prior to me delivering the twins, I had started noticing that I was just getting really tired. And I was just tired of being pregnant. I hate to say it that way, but I just really was tired. I just felt like really sluggish, and then I started getting headaches. So that concerned me because I'm not a person to get headaches. I never get headaches. If I get a headache, then there's something wrong. Either I've left my contacts in too long, or like something is wrong. And I hadn't been wearing contacts, so I was like, let me take my blood pressure. So if you guys don't know, I used to be in nursing, so I always have blood pressure cuffs from when I was working in the nursing homes and stuff like that. And so I took my blood pressure, and it was like 160 over 90. And then I was like, ooh, that's high. So I drank a little water, rested a little bit, and retook it. And so it went down to like 140 something over 77. So I was like, okay, at least my diastolic number is good, because generally the diastolic is usually the worst number, like if your bottom number goes up. Lately they've been, you know, talking about the top number too, but systolic. But anyways, bottom line is, for the next 3 days my blood pressure was testing. I'm thinking to myself, I got a feeling that when I go to my OB appointment, they're going to send me to the hospital for NST or something, because my blood pressure is creeping. And I started nesting. I started like getting stuff ready, and I told my husband we need to get the rest of the stuff that we need, because I don't know, I feel like these babies are coming. So the day I went to my OB appointment, which was September 1st, I got my little notes here. I went to the OB appointment on September 1st, and when I got there, I couldn't walk. Like, first of all, I couldn't fit in my car. I've gained about 70 pounds being pregnant with the twins. But it wasn't the weight that made me not be able to get in the car. It was how huge my stomach was. I couldn't really get the wheel to turn because my stomach was so big, you know, with the twins. And so I almost didn't go because I couldn't really get in the car. And my daughter, my eldest, was going with me. And I was like, we might not be able to go because I can't turn the wheel. And I was like, okay, forget it. My husband, he wasn't answering because I was telling him, like, I can't turn this wheel. But somehow I just leaned the seat way back, because he's 6'4", so when he drives, the seat is way back anyway, and I usually put it way up. But I was like, oh yeah, I could just let the seat back some, maybe that'll work. So I ended up getting in the car, but I quite frankly was driving kind of dangerously, because I was like under the dashboard. I was so down because I had to make the seat go down and back. Anyways, long story short, I get to the OB, and I'm there, and I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk. When I walked in, they gave me the little thing to pee in, and I was like, this is not going to happen, honey. I can, you know, TMI, but I can barely find my lady bits, okay, underneath all this stomach. So there's no way that I'm going to use the bathroom in this little bitty cup. I said, now you can go get me a bedpan or a, you know, the little thing that they put a hat into the toilet. I said, but that's the only way you're going to get some urine from me. So she was like, I'll just get you a hat. And so she got the hat, and I got the urine, okay? And it was very important for me to get the urine, because if it was protein in my urine and high blood pressure, that could mean preeclampsia. And so she got the urine. They came in, they took my blood pressure. It was super high. We're talking about like 200 over 100. And I was like, well, I said, I did just get through walking. I said, I barely can walk. I ended up finding out later on that both babies' heads were down. They both were like racing to the finish line. Okay, both of their heads was down, which is why I couldn't walk. But I was like, no, this is not gonna work. Just give me a minute to breathe, and then take my blood pressure again. Took it again. It came down, but it still was like 140 over 90 something, like 96 or so. So I saw a new doctor this time, and she was like, I'm really concerned. She was like, I'm going to send you to the hospital to have a biophysical ultrasound. Pretty much where they just check the babies and see what's going on. It's a little bit more in-depth than NST. Like, they really look. So I was like, okay, fine. And then she was like, Amy, blood pressure is high. So she called over to the hospital, told them I was coming to labor and delivery. So I called my husband, went home, and he dropped me off to labor and delivery. I knew I was gonna be there for at least overnight because my blood pressure was so high. And it's not normal for me. They looked at all my blood pressure readings, and my blood pressure is usually super good. So they were just like, this is not normal for you. I was like, no, it's not. And I ended up having some of the same nurses that I had when I had Persia a year and a half ago. And so I was happy to see their faces. And so I get into the delivery room. Well, you know, it was a delivery room, but it's more like the triage delivery room. And they're taking my blood pressure, and they're trying to get baby B onto the heartbeat monitor. Baby B is everywhere. Baby B is just like kicking, moving, punching the monitors, and baby A is just sitting there, you know, just sitting there kind of coasting. And they never had a problem with baby A, but they started worrying. I didn't know they were worrying yet. And so one of the nurses, Bianca, she was like, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna hold this monitor on your stomach until I can get a good heartbeat. And I'm like, because it takes 20 minutes to do the NST. And so she did the NST, and she sat there for like 20 minutes just holding this monitor on me because she didn't want it to come off. She didn't want me to hold it. Everybody was offering for them to hold it, and she was like, no, I'm gonna hold this until I get what I want. And so she sat there holding it on my belly. She was counting down the minutes. Her poor fingers was like turning red, and I was just like, wow. And in the meantime, I had people coming in put in IVs. They had to call down an IV team because my veins just wasn't visible this time, and so they were looking for a vein to use. So I got the IV team down there. They got the vein, they got my IV and things in there. They started giving me bags of fluid because I was dehydrated. And I mean, things was moving quick. I had like so many people in there. Courtney was another nurse that was in there. I had a lot of people in there just doing things. And so they're, you know, both nurses are trying to get, one is holding baby A on, and then the other one is still looking for baby B. Baby B is all over the place. So finally, she got the 20 minutes down or whatever, and now they're just trying to give me medicine to bring my blood pressure down. And if you guys know me, I hate medication. I don't like to do anything unnatural, but I went on ahead and let them give me the medication. So next thing I know, Bianca comes in and she's like, I got some steroids for you. And I'm like, I had been at the hospital at 30 weeks and I have avoided getting the steroids because I thought that I could hold the babies in at least to week 35 when their lungs will be fully developed. And I told myself if I go back anytime before then, I'm going to take the steroids. So when she came in the steroid shot, I just said, you know what? Jesus be with me. And so she gave me the shot, and I didn't feel anything, so I was fine with that. And so she came in, and you know, everybody let me back in, and she was like, she started rubbing my leg, and I'm like, what's going on? You know, just Bianca just tell me, she said, you want the fluffed up version or you want the real version? And I said, you know what, I want the real version. She said, honey, you're not going home. We're going to take these babies between now and 48 hours from now. So I'm like, okay. So I text my mom, I text my grandma. They freaking out because their flight wasn't set until October 1st. And we had been going back and forth whether they should come in September, whether they should come in October. And I didn't want anybody to show up 3 weeks early and then nothing is happening. Because my cervix was still at 4.7. I wasn't in labor, so it wasn't nothing going on. It's just that my blood pressure was creeping up, and baby A heartbeat was just flat. No peaks. You know, we don't want any deceleration, but there was no acceleration. And they looked for at least 15 peaks, and there was none. She was just... So they were like, okay, no, we're going to have to do a C-section because baby A is just stagnant. We don't understand what's going on with her. And I'm like, okay. So I text my husband and I tell him, you know, get ready because I'm not coming home. You need to go ahead and call your boss and take off for these 2 nights. And the babies will be coming within 48 hours. They want to give me a second dose of the steroid shot. Well, this was at about 4:30. 4:45, 4:50. They still trying to get my blood pressure down. I mean, they give me dose after dose after dose after dose after dose. It's just not coming down. Bianca comes back in the room again, smiling, but looking at me, rubbing my leg. I'm like, Bianca, what's going on? And she was like, you need to call your honey because you're going in for surgery at 5:30. And I'm just like, so at that point, I'm numb, you know. I don't have time to be scared. I don't have time to react. I'm just like, okay, all right. So I texted Jamal, and I'm like, hey, I'm getting ready to go into surgery. You need to get up here now. He like, now? Yes, now. Get up here now, please. So he came, and when he got there, it was about 5:15, and the anesthesiologist came in, and he decided that he wasn't going to take me down at that moment because my blood pressure had risen so high. It was like 220 over 106. At that point, they were like, no, we're not going to take you down to surgery yet. But they came in, they started prepping me, shaving my area, and wiping me down with the, anesthetics, wiping me down with the bacteria wipes and all that stuff, just to get you prepped. And then next thing I know, he was like, we're finna go ahead and go. So my husband had just got there, and they went on ahead and wheeled me down to surgery anyways. So yeah, we get into the surgery room, and they told me to get over onto the operating table, and they gave me a little step stool, so I got on the operating table, and of course there's like bright lights everywhere. I see all the knives and tools and, you know, everything they get ready to use on me, and I'm just like slowly freaking out. But I'm more freaked out about getting the spinal block, because I didn't get the epidural. I had to have a spinal block since it was an emergency. So my husband was already in his scrubs, and he was sitting over in the waiting room, in the second waiting room, and Malia and Persia was in the waiting room outside the delivery room, and so so they had me sit on a table, and they're like, you know, hunchback, and so he's trying to find how to get where to get it at, and every time he would push the needle in, he would set off something in my body that would like kick my leg or kick my arm, and they would tell me to be still, but it was like reaction from feeling it, the needle, you know, going in and out my spine. Finally, that part was over. He got it. As soon as he got it, my legs felt like weights, and they hurried up and like got me onto the table. So my legs was going numb. So I'm laying there, and I'm freaking out because they're getting ready to lay this table back, and my breasts are huge, and I'm like, I'm gonna die because I ain't gonna be able to breathe. So they laid me back, and then I remember everybody, it was like 2 teams of people in there, one for each baby, 2 teams of nurses and 2 teams of doctors and 1 anesthesiologist who stayed over my head the whole time. So they laid me back, and I remember them throwing up the tent so I couldn't see, and I smelled my flesh burning. And then they brought my husband in, so I knew what they were doing. They were lasering my incision open, and I didn't even care about the surgery part that was going on. All I cared about was all of a sudden I just got hit with this nausea that was just ridiculous, and I just was like, I'm about to vomit, I'm about to throw up. So the anesthesiologist turned my head, and he held the bag there, and he started pushing medicine through. He said it was just blood pressure medicine, but I think it was more nausea medication, and I did take a nausea type drink before I went in there. That was disgusting. It tastes like 150 warheads in one little cup. So they're down there. I feel a little tugging and pulling, and you know, I smell the flesh. And I'm just like, I don't care about what's going on down there. They lean this table back, and I am like, I can't breathe. I cannot breathe. And I start freaking out. I told them, I said, I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out. And the anesthesiologist goes over and he's secretly pushing stuff through my IV. And I turn to him. By now my husband's in there. He like, calm down. It's okay. And I said, will you stop pushing that anxiety medication into my IV? Because every time he would push it in, I would calm down instantly for like 10 minutes. And then the next thing I know, I'm back freaking out because I feel like I can't breathe. Oh, and no, I forgot to mention one part. Let me back up. Before they even cut into my flesh, they put these straps up against my stomach. They strapped my stomach across my shoulders onto the table. So like, I couldn't feel anything, but I could see my stomach rise, and they had these straps. So they strapped me down so that my stomach would stay up, because, you know, I'm fat. So like, they had to lift the fat up, and they strapped it to my shoulders. And let me tell you, that was the worst pain I ever felt in my shoulders. I started screaming like, my shoulders, oh my God, my shoulders is killing me. I was like, my shoulders are hurting. So I'm already leaned back, like halfway hanging off the table. Now my stomach is strapped to my shoulders, and I'm just freaking out. So yeah, so then, like I said, my husband came in, they cut my flesh, and I started feeling pulling. And then they pulled, and I see a head. They pulled it out, and I heard baby A crying. And they ended up switching baby A and baby B, because they both were head down, so they just grabbed whichever one they got first. And so I heard the cry, and I was like, okay, good, here's a cry. And I couldn't really be happy, like, oh, you know, I'm happy that they're out, because I was just in so much pain. I just wanted it to be done, but I was happy to hear that cry. And they brought her to my head, but I couldn't turn. I didn't even look at my husband. Like, I kind of stayed this way. I felt good if I just stayed this way. Okay, if I went that way, you know, it was uncomfortable. And so I just stayed this way, and I would talk to him this way. He got up, he went over to see the baby and stuff. So they getting ready to pull out baby B, and I could feel them literally lifting my rib cage. I could feel the rib cage lifting, but it didn't hurt. But I could feel it. It was literally lifting, because they had to pull baby B all the way out of my ribs. So after that, I'm like, it was quiet, and then about a half a minute later, I heard baby B cry. Good to go. So Jamal went down to the NICU with them, and I'm on this table, and I'm like, where's Courtney? You know, I wanted to know where the nurse Courtney was. She's like, I'm in here. You know, they like, she's in here. I'm in there freaking out. I'm just like, okay, how long we got? And they like, we got a while. It's gonna be about 45 minutes. We gotta get you closed up. And I'm just in here freaking out. My husband comes back, and he's just sitting there while they closing me up. And I am just like, I want to go home. I'm tired. I just want to be done with this. And they like, just calm down. And the anesthesiologist, he ready to put some more medicine in my thing. And I'm like, will you stop putting medicine in there? And then I guess he showed my husband, like, this is just blood pressure medicine. I'm just bringing your blood pressure down. And I wasn't trying to have it. I was not listening to him. I'm like, no, that's anxiety medicine. Stop pushing that in my IV. Anyways, finally get me sewn up. Go down to recovery. And I spent 3 days in the hospital. So during my hospital stay, my iron kept dropping. They like to see your iron between 12 for women. And my iron had dropped down to a 6. So they kept begging me to get a blood transfusion. I kept saying I don't want a blood transfusion. So I went a whole day refusing the transfusion. I refused all medication. I didn't have any medication, no pain pills, no anything. I didn't take anything. And so I just rolled it out. I went ahead and agreed to have 1 bag of blood, because they wanted to give me 2. But I was like, no, 1 bag. And my blood is rare, so I kept telling them to please call the blood bank, make sure that, 1, I don't have anti-kel, because my mother has not anti-kel, but she has natural killer cells. Anti-kel, no, she has anti-kel. And I just wanted to make sure I didn't have that, because she kept telling me, take the blood, just make sure they don't do you like they did me, because she had some transfusions, and they gave her some, you know, blood that wasn't good for her. But and so I told them, hey, you know, my blood is rare. I have like only 1% of African Americans have my blood type. My blood type is mostly Asian and Caribbean is where you find it. So I was like, make sure you give me the right blood type, and I don't, you know, I only want 1 bag. So I did take a bag. It raised my iron up, or my hemoglobin, from 6 to 6.7, no, 6.6. So not really a big deal there. But I told them I walk around at 7.3 anyways on a normal day. So my iron being low is nothing new. So yeah, the last day in hospital, they wanted me to stay again. I was going to stay again, but I got real uncomfortable because intestines and things were starting to wake up for the medication. Because when you have spinal block, your organs wake up like one at a time. It's not like just everything just comes back. This thing slowly roll back around. And all of a sudden, I used to get up and go straight to the bathroom. I was okay. I was walking around. They had me walking around the first day of surgery, so did a little walking. I went to the NICU to see my babies. And speaking of which, I'll tell you their names right now. Now you guys know I was going with Kamina and Kimora. But as I started thinking about it towards the end, I was thinking, like, if they go to get a job, will people be able to pronounce Kamina and Kimora? So I end up naming them Paris and London. So London is the oldest and was born 4 pounds 10 ounces. Paris is the youngest and was born 4 pounds 4 ounces. And so it's London, let me get it right, London, Kimora, Lee, Kellum, and then you got Paris, Kamina, Lynn, Kellum. Okay, so yeah. So yeah, again, my organs and stuff was just waking up, and I started having incontinence. I was not able to go to the bathroom at all, and the nurses weren't strong enough to deal with somebody as heavy as I am. So, you know, I'm walking around 300 plus pounds, and they just, you know, they couldn't handle really doing anything for me. And so I said, you know what, I would be just better at home. My husband took 2 days off, and then he already had 2 more days off, and then he just decided to end up taking the rest of the week off when I got home. So I told him, come get me now. So it was very hard to leave the babies there, but they're doing good. I just went to go see them today, and I actually got to hold Paris, and I fed her today. It's so hard to see them in the NICU, but I know that it's the best place for them to be. The doctor said that they maybe come home a little bit earlier. They like to keep them until your due date. So my due date was officially October 15th. I delivered them at 33 weeks and 5 days. So basically 6 weeks early. So they'll be in the NICU for a while, and that's okay. Again, I went up there and I held Paris and fed her, but London was asleep, so I didn't want to bother her. I just wanted her to go ahead and sleep. Yeah, so my advice to people who are 300 plus pounds getting ready to have a C-section, I would just say, or if you're pregnant at that weight, I would just totally work on the weight aspect, because it's not pretty. It's still not pretty. Like I have now, like, my uterus is still going down from being pregnant with twins, but it's all in the middle of my legs. It just it completely collapsed. So it's hard for me to even walk, because I have like this huge, just big, gigantic sack, like a fanny pack in the front, and it's just embarrassing. I have to hold my stomach, carry it when I walk to the bathroom, and I keep pads and tucks underneath my incision so that it don't pop open, which I did pop the side open a little bit because I tried to lay down on the bed. I haven't slept in a bed in 7.5 months. I've been sleeping in a recliner, and like my recliner is now busted. It's not comfortable anymore. So I was going to try to get in the bed, and I tried to get in the bed, and I went forward, and my stomach kind of like flopped forward, and it popped a little bit on the side. I went and got my incision checked today, and she said, look good. It's just what they call hissing, which is when the seam is starting to come open. Now I have stitches, staples, and Dermabond, but the Dermabond is kind of coming off. So other than that, it looks pretty good. Again, if you're heavy set going in for a C-section, just expect to have your stomach strapped up to your shoulders, and it's gonna be painful. Expect to be uncomfortable, even with the spinal block versus the epidural. Spinal block is fast, the epidural takes a while to set in, but they're both about the same, goes in the same way. Really nothing scary. The only thing scary about the spinal block is your chest feels like it's caving in and you can't breathe. Now that is very scary. With the epidural, you're not really numbed from the chest down. It's really just from the stomach down. But with the spinal block, it's from up here down. So expect that. It's something I would never do again. I've had a birth. I've delivered babies every way you can think of. I've had my 16-year-old, all natural, no medication. Okay, natural vaginal birth, no medication. I had Persia, vaginal birth, epidural. And now with the twins, I've had a C-section with the spinal block. So I can attest to every which way of delivering. And I don't understand how people opt in for C-sections. Like, I don't understand how somebody could think that having a C-section is better than a vaginal birth. Because vaginal birth, 3 days later, you back to yourself. You know, you cooling, you chilling, no big deal. C-section, it's just the worst. You can't get comfortable. You can feel the little spikiness of the staples. You have to, when I urinate, it, you know, TMI, it feels like I'm urinating out of both ends, like my stomach and my, you know, if you feel open, and it's just not nice. So I don't understand how people opt in for a C-section if you don't have to. So yeah, that is my story. I'll keep you guys updated, and I'll be posting a lot more. We will be vlogging and stuff, but for now we have to get the twins better. Then when I get here, I have to get acclimated to having twins, and then we're getting ready to move in January to a bigger place, and I'm deciding whether I want to go to where I was going, or do I want to move to Tampa, which is like a bigger city. I'm more towards the area near Siesta Key, so it's more like a vacation area. It's not an area of Florida where, like, you know, families be. It's kind of like where tourists and you know, old rich people come and use their boats and stuff and get on the water and all of that stuff like that, and it's over for that. Now I just need to get somewhere where it's bigger space and just more efficient. So yeah, that's it. We finally got the rest of the twin stuff. We have a lot more clothes to buy, but clothes is nothing. So we just been trying to get everything together. I have a stroller that's supposed to be here. Double stroller supposed to be delivered by today. So I'm gonna get on Amazon and see what's up with that. A lot of people asked me to do an online baby shower. Well, babies are here now, so a little too late for that. If anybody still wanted to send anything, just make sure you get my email below. I'll just send you the address. Send it that way, because really having an online baby shower at this point when they're already here is probably pointless. So yeah, thanks to everybody who was texting me and was concerned about me, and I texted a couple of you guys from the hospital. And yeah, so that's my story. I'll talk to you guys in the next video.